Welcome back to Bookish Dives. We've done quite a few of these explorations into the big shifts in tech, but today, well, we're focusing on a book that really makes you rethink one of the most influential companies out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's Karen Hao's Empire of AI Dreams and Nightmares in Sam Altman's OpenAI.
And this dive is, I think, really necessary. Because this book, it's more than just a company history, isn't it?
Definitely not just a history.
Right. It's pulling together a really powerful argument. So our mission today is basically to trace that argument, how this research lab, which started with, these really idealistic, humanistic goals, how it pretty rapidly turned into what Howell calls this powerful and, let's face it, often really controversial AI empire. We'll be looking at the internal clashes, the surprising stuff, and maybe most importantly, the hidden costs the book uncovers.
Okay, let's get straight into that. The book's core thesis, the big one. Hao says these major AI players, OpenAI definitely included, they don't operate like normal businesses. They're acting like, well, empires.
Yeah, that central metaphor, the empire, that's really the key to the whole thing. If you think about historical empires, right, they grow by extraction, by exploitation.
Right. Taking resources.
Exactly. And they usually justify it with some grand narrative, progress, destiny, whatever. Hao argues AI empires do the same, but the extraction is both digital and physical.
So what kind of resources are we talking about?
Well, things that aren't theirs to begin with. The creative work of artists, mountains of personal data from, well, everyone.
Okay.
And crucially, the often invisible labor of vulnerable workers all around the globe. And that's just the digital side.
And you mentioned physical extraction, too.
Oh, absolutely. The material cost is huge. We're talking land, massive amounts of energy, and staggering quantities of water needed for these enormous data centers that just keep growing. It's this relentless cycle.
A cycle of extraction, wow.
And this kind of ruthless extraction, it seems to fuel this huge sense of self-belief, almost a mission. Hao includes this really telling quote she heard. The most successful people create religions.
Create religions. Not companies.
Exactly. And that really sets the scene for the culture inside OpenAI, super driven, almost like a crusade, focused on this one goal, maybe not always seeing the cost piling up.
It's pretty ironic, though, given OpenAI's origin story. I mean, it was founded back in 2015, wasn't it? By Altman, Elon Musk, others.
Right.
And the whole point was to be this benevolent force, a counterweight to Google's dominance in AI. Musk was very public about fearing AGI built just for profit. He even warned it might.
Yeah, the quote was something like, it might start by murdering all competing AI researchers. A bit dramatic, maybe, but it shows the initial fear.
Shows the intent, yeah. But that idealism didn't last long, did it?
No, it hit a wall pretty fast, a financial wall. The book makes it clear that the sheer cost of computing power needed to even try and keep up with Google, well, it made the nonprofit model basically impossible almost right away.
So the pivot happened pretty quickly then?
By 2019, yeah. That's when they shifted from being a pure nonprofit to what Howell calls a nonprofit in name only. They created OpenAI LP, this capped profit company.
And the whole point of that was?
To raise money, serious money. They needed huge amounts of capital to compete in the race for AGI.
Which is where Microsoft comes in.
That's right. Microsoft's first $1 billion investment was absolutely critical. But once that money was flowing, the focus narrowed dramatically. It became all about one thing.
Yeah.
Scale.
Just scale. Why scale above all else? Wasn't there any discussion about, I don't know, different approaches, more efficient models maybe?
Well, the book suggests the pressure, the competition, and those early successes they had with large language models. It kind of created this feedback loop. A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay.
The belief solidified. Bigger models, bigger data sets. That was the only path to AGI. It led to this internal focus, almost a mantra, sometimes called OpenAI's law. Just keep scaling.
And the numbers are just wild.
They really are. GPT-4, reportedly, was over 15,000 times larger than GPT-1. Think about that jump.
15,000 times. That kind of exponential growth, it needs more than just money. It needs a certain culture, right? One that guards its secrets.
Exactly. And this is where that shift away from openness really took hold. The GPT-2 release back in 2018. That was a key moment.
Right. I remember that. That was the big debate.
It was. Inside OpenAI, they wrestled with this idea of information hazard. Basically, the fear that this powerful new model, even with its flaws, could be immediately weaponized for, say, mass disinformation.
So they didn't release the full thing?
No, they held back the full model. and they framed it as being responsible, as breaking with norms to figure out safety protocols. But what it really did was set a precedent for secrecy. That became part of their DNA.
And you can see how that secrecy links back to the money, the commercial side. Altman himself basically said the mission flipped, right?
Yeah, the quote was something like they needed to make more money so that we can do more research, not the other way around. Do more research so that we can make more money.
The research became dependent on the profit.
Precisely. And that brings us to the really uncomfortable part. The hidden costs of all this scaling. The human costs, which, as the book shows, are often pushed onto the most vulnerable people around the world.
Let's talk about that. The RLHF, the reinforcement learning from human feedback. The book details some harrowing stories, particularly workers in Kenya.
It does. Hao describes how OpenAI, through third-party contractors like Sama in Kenya, hired workers to filter toxic content out of the training data for models like GPT 3.5, GPT 4, making them safe.
Safe for us, the end users.
Right. But workers like Moffat Okini, who Hao profiles, were exposed daily to incredibly disturbing material. The book mentions child sexual abuse material, graphic violence, just horrible stuff.
For hours on end.
Yes, leading to documented psychological trauma, all to polish the final product to make ChatGPT seem harmless and friendly.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it? The clean, helpful interface versus the trauma involved in building it. That seems central to Hao's empire argument.
Absolutely central. And that precariousness, that exploitation, it wasn't just in Kenya. Hao also details the experiences of data annotators like Oscarina Veronica Fuentes-Anaya in Venezuela.
Working through platforms like Appen or remote tasks.
Exactly. These workers faced incredible instability. They had to structure their entire lives around waiting for unpredictable micro-tasks, often earning just pennies.
And the competition was fierce.
Unbelievably so. Hao tells this story about Anaya literally sprinting home to try and grab a rare, high-paying cask worth hundreds, a huge amount for her, only to lose it in the seconds it took her to log in because someone else, somewhere else in the world, clicked faster. The system pits desperate people against each other. It's bleak.
It really is. And the toll isn't just human trauma and exploitation. There's the environmental cost you mentioned earlier.
Right. Hao calls these generative AI models monstrosities in terms of their resource consumption. Data, labor, compute power, and natural resources, all on a scale that she says was previously unfathomable.
Monstrosities. That feels right when you look at the energy and water figures.
Yeah, data centers aren't just buildings anymore. They're mega campuses, some needing up to 2,000 megawatts of power.
That's like a small city's worth of power.
Easily. Hidden away, consuming vast resources. Hao gives this example of a planned Google data center in Chile, right in the middle of a terrible drought.
I remember reading about that.
It was estimated it would use over 1,000 times more water than the entire local town. And for OpenAI specifically, Hao notes GPT-4's training in Iowa used something like 11.5 million gallons of water in just 1 month.
11.5 million gallons. It's just unsustainable.
Clearly unsustainable. And yet this massive resource-hungry entity, it turns out, was also riddled with internal problems. Governance issues, which all came to a head in that wild week in November 2023.
Yes, the blip, the firing and rapid rehiring of Sam Altman.
The blip, exactly. But what's really striking in Hao's reporting is that the reasons behind the board firing him, they weren't sudden revelations.
Right. The book talks about Altman's reputation being kind of dual-sided for a long time.
Yeah. Seen as a brilliant strategist, absolutely. But also, there were these recurring accusations trailing him, even from his first company, Looped. Things about operating for his own benefit, a tendency to distort the truth.
To the point where leaders at Looped apparently wanted him fired twice.
Twice, according to the book. So flash forward to 2023, and the OpenAI nonprofit board members D'Angelo, Macaulay, Toner, and crucially, chief scientist Ilya Sutskever, they basically lost trust. Sutskever, a co-founder, remember, apparently came to see Altman's behavior as, well, the book uses terms like abuse or psychological abuse.
Strong words. So the board acted on its mandate, its conscience, and fired him. But it backfired spectacularly. How did he manage that reversal?
Well, Hao lays out the playbook. Intense pressure, #1 from Microsoft, threatening to pull vital computing resources.
Vital compute, yeah.
Then you had the threat of investor lawsuits. And maybe the biggest lever, the threat of a mass walkout by employees, rallied by figures like Greg Brockman. Remember the "We are so back" tweet?
Right.
That combination just made an OpenAI without Altman seem completely unworkable, untenable, as the book puts it. The market, the money, essentially overruled the board's concerns about governance and ethics.
So the outcome of this huge public governance crisis where the nonprofit mission was supposed to be the ultimate guardrail was just more power and money concentrated at the top.
Pretty much. Despite all the drama, the company's valuation just kept climbing. After the blip, it hit $86 billion in early 2024, then reportedly topped $157 billion later that year. The commercial side didn't just win, it completely took over. Oversight became secondary.
Okay, so we followed this arc. Idealism, the pivot, the scaling obsession, the hidden human and environmental costs, and finally, this governance meltdown. Bringing it all together, what's the big takeaway here for us, for people using this tech?
I think the core tension Hao really highlights is this. The way AI is developing, it's not some inevitable force of nature. It's not predetermined. It's the result of thousands of choices, subjective, often ideological choices made by a very small group of people.
Fallible people.
Very fallible people with their own flaws, egos, and agendas. And the way things are going, the book argues, the benefits flow mostly upwards, making the powerful even more powerful, while the significant costs, social, environmental, are pushed down onto everyone else, often hidden from view.
That really leaves us with a challenging question, doesn't it, for you, the listener, to think about. We know empires eventually fall, often under their own weight. So can we actually influence the future of AI? Can better governance, stronger protection for workers, maybe resisting these grand narratives of progress actually make a difference?
Or is it too late? Has that path of extraction and consolidation kind of locked us in?
Big questions.
Huge questions. Hao's book provides a lot of evidence that the costs are real, they're mounting, and that if we want change, it requires pushing back, demanding transparency, demanding accountability, especially for the harms that are currently being masked by that slick chatbot interface.
Definitely powerful things to consider as AI continues to reshape everything. If you want to stay informed and really dig into the stories driving the headlines, make sure you follow Bookish Dives for more explorations like this one.